Hi everybody, happy Chanuka. This is Dvar Torah. For those of you that don't know, I generally put out a weekly Parsha Dvar. I send around to people on both an email list and a Facebook list, as well as to some people in person. And for this week, the week of Chanuka, I want to put out a video Dvar, sort of like Torah Anytime style, if you're familiar with that. And I'd like you to please watch and hopefully be inspired for this year and hopefully the years after that. Alright, so there's obviously a lot of things about Chanuka that we can talk about. I was recently listening to a shir by Rabbi Klatzko, Rabbi Ben-Zion Klatzko, who, if you're not familiar with him, I very much encourage you to listen to his stuff. He does Shabbat.com and amazing videos on Torah Anytime, by the way. And, I was thinking about the fact that he was talking about that Chanuka is often perceived as a superficial holiday, right? We see the lights, we see the menorahs, we see decorations, we see everything. And it's actually even kind of ironic that, somewhat of a holiday that's against assimilation is actually one of the most assimilated holidays. But what's the holiday really about? And obviously there's many, many answers to that, and it goes really deep. And part of it comes to the shemen. Why shemen? Why oil? Why are we focused on that? Right? So the Yemei Chanuka, right? There were many, many miracles that took place during this time. There were many miracles, right? We had, the Maccabees, the Hashmonaim, fighting against the Greeks. We had, Jews trying to fight for their heritage, halacha, culture, Torah, everything like that. We had, small armies conquering big armies, and it was amazing nisim. But it ultimately culminated with the lighting of the menorah. When they came to the Beit HaMikdash and they saw everything destroyed, and they found that one little flask of oil, and it was able to burn 8 days. Obviously, that's what we all harp about. So why is that so significant? That seems to be the primary essence of what we focus on. And obviously, the real answer to that can probably go on for days, maybe even 8 days. But I want to focus on one or two particular aspects. So, the words Yemei Chanuka, right, the days of Chanuka, is in gematria, or numeric equivalency, equal to sfog, right, which means to absorb, right? Now, you might think that, okay, that doesn't really mean anything, it seems to be a little coincidental, but I'm going to prove to you that that's not the case. What happens when something is absorbed into something? Let's take a sponge, for example, right? You can look at the sponge, you don't necessarily see that it's saturated with water, but when you squeeze it, it comes out. So too, something that is saturated with oil, right, is when you squeeze it, it comes out. And oil has a property that is even much more so than water. It doesn't dry out easily, and it's constantly can be incredibly saturated, and you squeeze and it comes out. But you don't always notice that it's there in the first place, right? And that's the essence of Chanuka. Finding what is within and bringing it out. Squeezing it out, bringing out what's internal, bringing out the internalness of an object, right? And we had the people who fought for the Torah values, the people who fought for everything, were the Chashmonaim. Many of the sages and commentaries teach that Chashmonaim starts with Chet Shemen, right? The letters Chet Shin Mem Nun is Chet Shemen, which talks about the 8 days of Shemen. Why are we speaking about oil? Because the oil is what we're bringing out, right? The oil that comes to potential within. And we have the amazing story with Elisha Hanavi, where he has the flask and he gives to this poor woman who doesn't have anything. And she takes a flask and she pours the oil. And as long as she continues pouring, the oil never ends. It continues to flow out and out and out, and there is no cessation to it. Right? The oil pours from within, just like the Torah and the love can pour from our hearts. Right? We have here a match. Do you see any potential in this match? No. But we inherently know that there is. When we strike it, we get a brilliant flame. It's not something that you see inherently at the beginning, but it's there. And sometimes it requires a little bit of friction. Sometimes you need to be a little bit nudged in order for that flame to shine. And you light it to a candle, right? You light a candle. What do you see here? You see a wick. You see a wick inside something. The wick is also something that is inside, right? Why are we using oil in a wick, right? Who's to say that an oil in a wick has to burn, right? We have, oils and wicks here. We have oils and wicks in our menorahs. Why does an oil in a wick have to burn? Obviously because Hashem said so, but it obviously is a much more inherent message, right? Now, a lot of it goes on to the concept of chet, the concept of Shmona in general. Chanuka is not in 8 days just simply because that's how long it lasted. 8 days has an incredible mystical significance. The letter chet represents the supernal, the going beyond the 7 ordinary days, beyond the 7 ordinary spectrum, if you will, the immense potential to go beyond, right? When you burn something, when you bring forth a flame, when you emanate, when you squeeze something out, you're bringing out the potential more than what is inherently apparent, more than what is just plain out there, more than that 7 or spectrum or whatever you want to call it, that plain sense of what you see. It's much more than the external. It goes beyond the external, right? It shows the supernatural, amazing prowess of God, right? It shows this amazing divine providence, right? And we have some interesting things that we particularly utilize with oil, right? It's not just the menorah, but we have latkes and we have sufganiyot, right? And you might think that it's perhaps okay, it's a nice idea, right? They had potatoes, they're common, they're cheap, they're easy to use. You have, sufganiyot, which are donuts because they're sweet, but perhaps it's really much more than that, right? We know that water and oil don't generally mix, right? But we also know that water is connected to Torah, right? Torah is equated many times by our sages as water, right? And if oil is this inherent teaching, right? What is this inherent teaching of oil? Let's first figure that out, and then let's figure out how it actually does fit very well with Torah. Shemen, the word for oil, is shemin, among other interpretations, right? Shemin, that which comes from, that which emanates from, that which brings forth and is symbolic of the potential, right? So now that we have that interposed with water, how does that happen, right? Normally, as I said, water and oil do not mix. But if you add something else, if you add a basis, if you add a base to it, then you have something, right? For example, flour, right? The Chazal teach us, ein kamach, im ein kemach, ein Torah, right? If you don't have flour, you don't have Torah. But if you have flour and you have Torah, which is the water, then you form a dough, you form a basis. And then you can infuse the oil in there and make something really amazing. Even a potato. A potato is almost entirely made out of water. Yet, we have the ability to fry it in an immense amount of oil, right? And again, it's symbolic of this nature. Water and oil, Torah and potential can absolutely be and should be intertwined. But you need a basis, and that's where the physicality comes in. Chanuka is not about physicality, but it's about combining that physicality with the light of Torah, with the divine light, and bringing out your potential. Bringing out this spark, bringing out this flame that we have inside, right? It's not just simply to be pretty. In fact, many people, think of it as all about lighting up the darkness. It's lighting up the spiritual darkness. We're not allowed to use the Chanuka candles as physical light. We're not allowed to use them to illuminate the physical darkness. But they are inherently there to light up the spiritual darkness, to light up the dark times in our lives, the difficult times in our lives. And as I said, sometimes when we have friction in our lives, we need to look inside. And we need to see that flame. We need to see that spark, right? We have the word for flame, a lahav, a flame, which is backwards vahal, which means to mix up. If we're mixed up, we don't necessarily see the potential in things. And when you invert that even more, you get hevel, you get nothingness. All you see is physicality. All you see is the exterior, right? But that spirituality is within. That spark of Hashem, that spark of Torah, that spark of life is within us all. Thank you very much for watching. Happy Chanuka and a pleasant year.